Have you ever caught a glimpse of your reflection in a darkened window at night and, for a split second, failed to recognize the person looking back? There is something unsettling about a face partially obscured by shadows. It reveals a depth and a mystery that the bright, flat light of noon simply cannot capture. Most of us spend our entire lives running toward the light, trying to illuminate every corner of our personality so that we appear good, kind, and rational to the world. We build a house of mirrors that only reflects the traits we approve of. But the shadow explorer knows that the most important mirror you will ever look into is the one that sits in the dark. It is the mirror that reflects the parts of yourself you have denied, suppressed, and cast away. We are taught that to grow is to eliminate our flaws. But true growth is not an act of subtraction. It is an act of integration. It is the process of reclaiming the lost pieces of your soul that you buried long ago because you were told they were too dangerous or too ugly. Consider the story of a man named Julian. Julian was a man of immense discipline. He was a mediator, a man known for his unflappable calm and his ability to remain neutral in the heat of any conflict. He prided himself on his Zen composure. He believed he had conquered his anger, his envy, and his greed. He walked through life like a saint made of marble. But Julian felt a strange, persistent exhaustion. He felt like a man holding his breath, waiting for a storm that never arrived. He had a sovereignty over his actions, but he had no joy. His life was a sterile room where nothing ever grew. One night, Julian was walking through a quiet old district of the city. He passed a shop window that was unlit, and in the black glass he saw himself. But the reflection didn't look like a saint. It looked like a predator. He saw a face filled with a hunger and a fierce, untapped power that he had spent 40 years denying. In the silence of that moment, he realized the truth. He wasn't calm. He was repressed. He had mistaken the absence of emotion for the mastery of it. He had cast his ambition, his anger, and his raw desires into the basement of his mind, and he was using all his energy to keep the door locked. This is the mirror in the dark. It shows you the shadow, the part of your psyche that contains everything you find unacceptable. Perhaps it is your capacity for selfishness, your secret arrogance, or your deep-seated fear of being ordinary. We deny these parts because we think they make us bad. But when you deny a part of yourself, you give it control over you. A repressed anger doesn't disappear. It turns into a slow, acting poison that manifests as passive aggression, chronic fatigue, or sudden, inexplicable outbursts. To look into the dark mirror is to practice a radical form of stoicism. It is the realization that you cannot truly manage what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot be virtuous if you are simply too afraid to be wicked. True virtue requires that you possess the capacity for darkness, but choose the light. A man who has no teeth is not peaceful. He is merely harmless. A peaceful man is one who has a sword and knows how to use it, but keeps it sheathed. Julian began the work of alchemy. He stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be whole. He entered the silence of his own shadow. He sat with his anger and asked it what it wanted. He discovered that his suppressed anger was actually a distorted form of his integrity. It was the part of him that wanted to stand up for himself, but was too afraid to be disliked. He looked at his secret ambition and realized it was the source of his creativity. By letting go of the need to be a marble saint, Julian found his blood again. He became a man of warmth and weight. He was no longer holding his breath. This is the healing that the world rarely talks about. It is the healing that comes from saying yes to the monster in the mirror. When you acknowledge your shadow, the monster stops being a threat and starts being an ally. Your anger becomes your boundaries. Your envy becomes a compass pointing toward your true desires. Your fear becomes your caution. You stop being a fragmented person trying to hide your cracks and start being an integrated being whose strength is derived from its depth. If you are feeling hollow or exhausted today, it may be because you are tired of the discipline of denial. You are tired of maintaining a facade that only shows half of the truth. I invite you to turn off the lights. Go into the quiet. Look into the dark mirror of your own soul. Do not flinch. Do not judge. Simply observe. What parts of yourself have you cast into the shadows? What vulnerability are you trying to hide with your perfection? What power have you labeled as evil because you were afraid of its intensity? The night is not your enemy. The shadow is not your failure. The dark mirror is the only tool that can show you the wholeness you have been searching for. You are not just the light. You are the darkness that holds the light. You are not just the saint. You are the sinner who has learned the value of grace. Own your shadows. Walk with your ghosts, and discover that the person you were so afraid to see in the dark is actually the very person who can lead you to the light.